I stand in front of the community center, staring at the bulletin board where they've posted this year's Maple Springs Summer Parade accepted entries. My heart is thumping wildly as I scan the list, searching for my name. It's not there. Again. My hands clench into fists at my sides, and I feel a familiar burning sensation behind my eyes. I blink rapidly, refusing to cry in public. Not this time. Someone brushes past me to check the board, and I force myself to step back, pretending to be absorbed in my phone. "Congratulations!" I hear a woman say to the man who just walked up. "Fourth year in a row for the Rotary Club." "Thanks, Ellen," he replies, his voice smug. "Your Garden Society float looks great in the concept art. Can't wait to see the finished product." I look up briefly, recognizing Ellen Peterson and Carl Hoffman, the parade committee chair, the two pillars of Maple Springs social life. They're both in their 50s, both impossibly well-connected, and both part of the reason I'm standing here swallowing disappointment for the third consecutive year. "Did you see Vivian Mercer submitted another application?" Ellen whispers, though not quietly enough. "Wild Birds of North America." She rolls her eyes. "After last year's disaster, I don't know why she bothered." My cheeks burn hot. I want to disappear, or better yet, tell them exactly what I think of their precious parade committee and their obvious bias against newcomers. But I don't. I never do. Instead, I turn and walk away, head high despite the humiliation churning in my stomach. They don't know I heard them. Let them gossip. Let them laugh. I'll be fine. But I'm not fine. Not really. I walk briskly down Oak Street toward my small rented house, the spring air doing nothing to cool my anger. 3 years I've lived in Maple Springs. 3 years I've tried to become part of this community. 3 years of rejection. When I reach my front porch, I slump onto the steps, finally letting the tears come. My phone buzzes with a text from my best friend, Zoe. "Parade results?" I type back a simple "rejected" again. Her response is immediate. "Those bastards coming over with wine." Zoe is the one good thing that came from moving to Maple Springs after my divorce. We met at the local library where she works, and she's been my lifeline in this painfully tight-knit town where everyone seems to have known each other since birth. While waiting for Zoe, I pull up the email I'd received 2 weeks ago. "Dear Miss Mercer, thank you for your submission to the Maple Springs Summer Parade. After careful review, we regret to inform you that your entry, Wild Birds of North America, has not been selected for this year's event. Due to the high volume of quality submissions and limited parade slots, we had to make difficult decisions. We encourage you to apply again next year. Sincerely, the Maple Springs Parade Committee." The same form letter 3 years running. The only difference is the float theme. Year 1, Celebrating Literature. I'd designed a float with giant books that opened to reveal characters inside. Year 2, Under the Sea. I'd proposed an ocean scene with jellyfish made from translucent umbrellas and LED lights. And now, Year 3, Wild Birds of North America. A float featuring oversized papier-mâché birds native to our region, with information about conservation. Each rejection hurts more than the last, not because I care so much about a small-town parade, but because it's symbolic of my larger failure to integrate into this community. I'd moved here for a fresh start after my divorce from Richard, thinking a small town would be welcoming. Turns out, it's just easier to spot when you don't belong. 20 minutes later, Zoe's compact car pulls into my driveway. She emerges with not just wine, but also a pizza box balanced on one hand. "Emergency provisions," she announces, climbing the steps to sit beside me. Zoe is everything I'm not: confident, outspoken, and despite being a transplant like me, somehow immediately accepted by the town. Her purple-streaked black hair and librarian glasses make her look both intellectual and slightly rebellious. "You're too good to me," I say, taking the wine bottle. It's already opened, and I detect Zoe's lipstick on the rim. She started without me. I don't blame her. "So what was it this time?" she asks as we move inside. "Did they give you any feedback?" I laugh bitterly, setting the pizza on my coffee table. Same form letter as always, but I overheard Ellen Peterson saying something about last year's disaster. Zoe scoffs. "Last year's disaster? You mean when your car broke down while you were picking up supplies and you couldn't finish the float in time? That's hardly a disaster, that's just bad luck." Doesn't matter, I say, pouring wine into two mismatched glasses I grab from the kitchen. I'm done. 3 strikes and I'm out. What? No. Zoe takes her glass. You can't let them win. It's not about winning, I argue, though part of me knows that's exactly what it's about. I'm tired of putting my heart into something just to be rejected. Maybe some places you just don't fit, no matter how hard you try. That's bullshit, Viv. This town needs more people like you, creative, thoughtful people who actually care about something besides whose family has lived here the longest. I take a long sip of wine. Well, I don't think I can face another rejection. Not from the parade committee, not from this town. So, what are you going to do? Zoe asks, her dark eyes studying me. Move again? The question hangs in the air. Moving had crossed my mind more than once over the past year, but starting over again, alone, in yet another new place, the thought exhausts me. No, I finally say. I'm going to focus on what I can control, my art, my business. Maybe expand my online sales. I've been making ends meet with my small art business, custom illustrations and paper goods that I sell on Etsy and at occasional craft fairs in larger towns nearby. It's not much, but it gives me purpose and pays most of my bills. The rest I cover with part-time graphic design work I do remotely. Well, I think that's a perfectly healthy response, Zoe says, raising her glass in a toast, to telling small-town politics to go fuck themselves. I clink my glass against hers and laugh, feeling slightly better. We spend the evening demolishing the pizza and bottle of wine, then opening another that Zoe conjures from her seemingly bottomless tote bag. By midnight, we've moved on from parade rejections to reminiscing about terrible dates and watching reruns of cooking shows. When I finally crawl into bed after Zoe leaves, I'm drunk enough to sleep deeply, but sober enough to set my alarm. Tomorrow is Monday, and I have a commission to finish for a client in Seattle. As I drift off, I make a promise to myself. This is the last time I'll let Maple Springs make me feel small. From now on, I'm done trying to fit in where I'm not wanted. The next morning, I wake with a dull headache and a sense of resolve that survived the night's drinking. I go through my usual routine, coffee, a quick breakfast, checking emails, before settling in at my desk by the window that overlooks my small backyard garden. I'm halfway through the commission, an illustration of a family home for an anniversary gift, when my phone rings. It's a number I don't recognize with a Chicago area code. Hello? Is this Vivian Mercer? The woman's voice is crisp, professional. Yes, this is she. Miss Mercer, my name is Amara Okafor. I'm an attorney with Davidson, Patel, and Wong. I'm calling regarding the estate of Eleanor Mercer. I freeze, my stylus hovering above my tablet. My grandmother? But she passed away 5 years ago. Yes, I understand that. I apologize for the delay in contacting you. There have been some complications with the execution of her will. Are you available to meet in person to discuss this matter? My grandmother Eleanor had been my only real family after my parents died in a car accident when I was 16. She raised me through my high school and college years, but we'd had a falling out when I married Richard. She never liked him, said he was all shine, no substance. She turned out to be right, but by the time I realized it, Eleanor had passed away from a sudden stroke. I'd attended her funeral, of course, but was told by the family lawyer at the time that she'd left everything to various charities. I hadn't questioned it. Our relationship had been strained at the end, and I wasn't expecting an inheritance. Miss Mercer? Amara's voice pulls me back to the present. Yes, sorry, this is just unexpected. I live in Massachusetts now, quite far from Chicago. I understand. Would you be able to travel here next week? The firm would cover your expenses, of course. Something about her tone tells me this isn't a small matter. Is everything okay? I mean, legally speaking. There's a pause. I would prefer to discuss the details in person, but I can assure you that you are not in any legal trouble. Quite the contrary. My curiosity is officially piqued. I can be there next Tuesday, I say, mentally rearranging my work schedule. Excellent. I'll have my assistant email you the details. She pauses again. And Miss Mercer, I believe you'll find this meeting worthwhile. After we hang up, I sit staring at my phone, wondering what this could possibly be about. I almost call Zoe, but decide to wait until I know more. No sense speculating wildly about what is probably just some overlooked personal item of my grandmother's that they finally tracked me down to deliver. Still, as I return to my illustration, I can't shake the feeling that something significant is about to change. The law offices of Davidson, Patel, and Wong occupy half a floor in a sleek downtown Chicago skyscraper. I sit in a minimalist chair in the reception area, wearing the one good blazer I own over a simple black dress. My palms are sweating. Miss Mercer, a young man approaches. Miss Okafor will see you now. He leads me down a hallway to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Millennium Park. Amara Okafor rises from behind an imposing desk. She's a striking woman in her early 40s, with close-cropped hair and a tailored suit that probably cost more than 3 months of my rent. Thank you for coming, she says, gesturing for me to sit in one of the chairs facing her desk. Can I offer you anything? Water? Coffee? Water would be great, thanks. She presses a button on her desk phone and requests 2 waters, then sits back down and regards me with keen eyes. As I mentioned on the phone, I'm handling certain aspects of your grandmother's estate. Eleanor Mercer was a client of our firm for many years. I didn't know that, I say. I thought Mr. Garrison was her lawyer. He's the one who handled everything after she died. Amara's expression tightens slightly. Gerald Garrison handled her general affairs, yes. But for certain financial matters, she worked with our firm, specifically with my late colleague, Edward Davidson. Late colleague? Mr. Davidson passed away 3 years ago, which is part of why there's been such a delay. She opens a folder on her desk. After his death, many of his files had to be reassigned and reviewed. During this process, we discovered some irregularities with how your grandmother's will was executed. My heart beats faster. What kind of irregularities? Before she can answer, there's a knock, and a young woman enters with 2 water glasses on a tray. Once she's gone, Amara continues. Miss Mercer, are you aware that your grandmother was quite wealthy? I blink in surprise. No, I knew she was comfortable. She owned her home outright and never seemed to worry about money, but she lived modestly. Amara nods. That was by choice, not necessity. Your grandmother made several extremely successful investments in the early tech boom. She also inherited significant assets from your grandfather. She slides a document across the desk. I pick it up and scan it, my eyes widening at the numbers. This can't be right, I whisper. I assure you it is. At the time of her death, your grandmother's estate was valued at approximately $22 million. The room seems to tilt. I grab my water glass and take a long drink, trying to process this. But I was told everything went to charity. Amara's expression hardens. That is what Mr. Garrison claimed, yes. However, according to the documents filed with our firm, your grandmother's actual will left the bulk of her estate to you, with specific charitable donations amounting to less than 10% of the total. I don't understand, I say, my voice shaking. Are you saying Mr. Garrison lied? We believe there was deliberate misrepresentation, yes, and possibly forgery. She hands me another document. This is a copy of the will that was filed with the probate court 5 years ago. I scan it quickly. Indeed, it lists various charities as the primary beneficiaries. And now this, she says, passing me a third document, is the will that was in our firm's secure files, signed and witnessed 2 months before your grandmother's death. This document is completely different. In clear language, it leaves the majority of Eleanor's estate to me, with specific instructions for how the money should be managed until I reach certain age milestones. The signatures don't even match, I murmur, comparing the documents. Exactly. We believe Mr. Garrison submitted a fraudulent will to the court. Once we discovered this, we began an immediate investigation. That investigation is now complete, and we're prepared to petition the court to recognize the true will and distribute the assets accordingly. My head is spinning. Where is Mr. Garrison now? Wouldn't he be in trouble for this? Amara's expression is grim. Mr. Garrison died 18 months ago. Heart attack on a golf course. However, we've traced the money. Most of it was indeed donated to the charities listed in the false will. However, each charity subsequently hired a consulting firm called Garwell Associates for development services. Garwell Associates was owned by Gerald Garrison and his partner James Wellington. So they essentially took the money anyway, through fake consulting contracts. I say, anger beginning to replace shock. Precisely. We believe they retained approximately 60% of the estate's value through these arrangements. The good news is we've managed to freeze most of these assets, and with the evidence we've gathered, we expect the court to rule in your favor. And what does that mean for me exactly? Amara allows herself a small smile. It means, Miss Mercer, that once the court proceedings are complete, which should take about 3 to 6 months, you will inherit approximately $15 million plus any interest or growth. The number hangs in the air between us. $15 million, it's unfathomable. I don't even know what to say, I stammer. You don't need to say anything right now. I understand this is overwhelming. Here's what will happen next. She outlines the legal process, the expected timeline, and what she'll need from me. By the time I leave her office 2 hours later, my head is stuffed with new information, and my bag is full of documents to review. I've signed preliminary paperwork to move forward with the case and agreed to return to Chicago for the court date when it's set. As I step onto the sunlit street, I feel disconnected from reality. Yesterday, I was worried about making rent next month. Today, I'm potentially worth $15 million. I find a bench in a nearby plaza and call Zoe. Hey, how's Chicago? She answers cheerfully. Zoe, I say, my voice unsteady. You're not going to believe what just happened. The next 6 months pass in a blur of legal proceedings, paperwork, and moments of disbelief. I tell almost no one about the inheritance, not wanting to jinx it or invite questions I can't yet answer. Only Zoe knows the full story. I continue working on commissions and selling my art, more because it keeps me grounded than out of financial necessity. The court case progresses largely as Amara predicted, and by late fall, I receive the official notice. The original will has been validated, the misappropriated funds have been largely recovered, and I am now, officially, a multi-millionaire. The money is transferred into new accounts, set up by the financial advisors Amara recommended. I stare at the banking app on my phone for a long time the day it happens. Looking at a number so large it doesn't seem real. Zoe comes over that evening with champagne. We sit on my porch swing, bundled in sweaters against the autumn chill. So, she says after we've toasted, what are you going to do with it? I've been asking myself the same question for months. I'm not entirely sure yet. I've made some donations to causes my grandmother cared about, and I'm setting up a proper studio space for my work. Are you staying in Maple Springs? Zoe asks, watching me carefully. I've been thinking about that a lot, I admit. Part of me wants to leave, start fresh somewhere new. Maybe a city with a bigger art scene. I pause, looking out at the quiet street where fall leaves dance in the breeze. But another part of me feels like that would be running away. It's not running away if there's nothing keeping you here, Zoe points out. You're here, I counter. And I don't know, there's something about this place. I wanted to belong here so badly. Maybe I'm just stubborn, but I hate the idea of giving up. Zoe laughs. Stubborn is definitely the right word. She refills our glasses. Well, whatever you decide, you can afford to take your time now. She's right. For the first time in my adult life, I don't have to make decisions based primarily on financial concerns. It's a strange, almost dizzying freedom. That night, after Zoe leaves, I curl up on my couch with a notebook and start listing possibilities. What do I want my life to look like now? What would make me happy? I think about my grandmother, living modestly despite her wealth. What would she have wanted from me? I remember her telling me once, "Money is just a tool, Vivian. It's only as good as what you build with it." I fall asleep on the couch, notebook on my chest, dreaming of possibilities. 2 weeks later, I'm at the grocery store when I overhear conversation in the next aisle. "It's a shame about the parade," someone says, "after 25 years, to just cancel it." Well, what choice did they have? The mill closing hit the town budget hard and without corporate sponsorship. I peek around the end of the aisle. It's two older women I recognize from around town but don't know personally. Carl Hoffman was beside himself at the town meeting, one continues. He said they needed at least $15,000 to make it happen. Where are they going to find that kind of money in this economy? Especially by January when planning needs to start. I duck back into my aisle, my mind racing. The Maple Springs Summer Parade? Canceled? Despite my personal history with the event, I know how much it means to the town. It's their biggest annual celebration, bringing in visitors from neighboring communities and giving local businesses their best sales day of the year. On impulse, I grab my phone and search for news about the mill closing. Sure enough, Maple Valley Paper Mill, the town's largest employer, shut down operations last month. Over 100 people lost their jobs, and the town lost its biggest taxpayer and parade sponsor. By the time I reach the checkout, a plan is forming in my mind. A slightly petty, definitely dramatic plan, but one that might just work for everyone involved. The next day, I call the mayor's office and request a meeting. Mayor Diana Chen looks exhausted. She's in her early 60s with silver-streaked black hair and the harried expression of someone juggling too many crises at once. Her office in the small town hall is cluttered with papers and coffee mugs. "Miss Mercer, thank you for coming in," she says, gesturing for me to sit. "I must admit, I was surprised by your request. We haven't had much interaction before." "No, we haven't," I agree. "I've been in Maple Springs for 3 years, but I've kept mostly to myself." "What can I help you with today?" She glances at her computer screen, clearly busy. "Actually," I say, "I'm here to help you. I understand the summer parade is at risk of being canceled due to budget constraints." Her attention shifts fully to me now. "That's correct. With the mill closing and the loss of tax revenue, we've had to make cuts across the board. The parade is a luxury we can't afford right now, unfortunately." "What if I told you I'd like to sponsor it?" I say, keeping my voice casual. "Cover the entire budget." Mayor Chen's eyebrows shoot up. "You? I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound rude, but aren't you an artist? Small business owner?" "I recently came into an inheritance," I explain, keeping the details vague, "and I'd like to invest some of it back into the community." She studies me suspiciously. "That's very generous. But the parade would need at least $15,000, possibly more." "I'm prepared to donate $25,000, I say, enjoying the way her eyes widen. "With some conditions." "What conditions?" she asks cautiously. I smile. "I want to be involved in the planning process, and I'd like input on this year's theme." "That seems reasonable," she says slowly. "The committee usually handles those details, but given the circumstances, I'm sure we could accommodate that." "Excellent. Then we have a deal." I pull out a checkbook. Something I haven't used in years, but which seemed appropriate for this moment. Who should I make this out to? 20 minutes later, I leave town hall with a receipt for my donation and an appointment to attend the next parade committee meeting. As I walk to my car, I pull out my phone and text Zoe. "Just sponsored the summer parade. They have no idea what's coming." Her response is immediate. "OMG, what did you do?" I smile to myself. "I'll tell you tonight. Bring wine. The expensive kind this time, I'm buying." The conference room at the town hall is buzzing with conversation when I arrive for the parade committee meeting. I'm 10 minutes early, but most of the committee members are already there, clustered in small groups, coffee cups in hand. The room falls quiet as I enter. I've changed my appearance somewhat since inheriting my grandmother's money. Nothing drastic, but my clothes are of better quality now, my hair recently cut into a more sophisticated style at a salon in Boston. Still, they recognize me. "Vivian," Carl Hoffman says, recovering first. He's wearing a Rotary Club pin on his blazer lapel. "This is unexpected. I think you may have the wrong meeting." "No, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be," I reply, taking a seat at the table and setting down my leather portfolio. "Mayor Chen didn't tell you? I'm the parade's new sponsor." The silence that follows is delicious. Ellen Peterson's coffee cup freezes halfway to her mouth. "You're the anonymous donor?" Carl asks incredulously. So Diana had kept my name out of it so far. Interesting. "Not anonymous anymore," I say with a smile. "Just thought I'd keep it simple until today." The door opens and Mayor Chen enters, looking harried as usual. She stops short when she sees the tableau before her. Me sitting calmly at the table, the rest of the committee staring in various states of shock. "Ah, I see introductions have been made," she says, taking a seat at the head of the table. "Yes, Miss Mercer has generously agreed to fund this year's parade. Without her contribution, we would have had to cancel the event entirely." "But," Ellen begins. "I think what Ellen means to say is thank you," interrupts a man I recognize as the owner of the town's hardware store. "We're all very grateful for your support, Miss Mercer." "Vivian, please," I say, "and you're welcome. The parade is an important tradition for Maple Springs. I'm happy to help preserve it." The meeting proceeds with tense formality. Mayor Chen outlines the general timeline and budget, then turns to the first major decision, the theme. Traditionally, the committee votes on several options, she explains, but as per our agreement, Vivian has input this year. All eyes turn to me. This is the moment I've been waiting for. "I've given this a lot of thought," I say, opening my portfolio and pulling out some concept sketches I prepared. "I'd like to propose second chances as this year's theme." I pass the sketches around. They show parade float concepts celebrating various forms of second chances: environmental restoration, community renewal, personal reinvention. "The mill closing has been hard on this town," I continue, "but it's also an opportunity to reimagine what Maple Springs can be. Many people here are starting over in some way. This theme celebrates resilience and new beginnings." There's a thoughtful silence as they examine my drawings. I've put my professional skills to work, and even I can admit the concepts are good, colorful, meaningful, and visually striking. "These are quite impressive," Carl admits reluctantly. "I like it," says a woman named Meredith who runs the local bookstore. "It's timely and it has layers. People can interpret it in personal ways. And it would allow for a wide variety of float designs," adds another committee member. Ellen is the only one frowning. "It seems a bit abstract. The parade has always had more concrete themes: under the sea, storybook characters, things children can easily understand." "Children understand second chances perfectly well," I counter. "Every time they make a mistake and get to try again, that's a second chance. Every new school year is a second chance." Mayor Chen, sensing the shift in the room's energy, steps in. "Let's put it to a vote. All in favor of second chances as this year's theme?" Every hand goes up except Ellen's. Even Carl, after a moment's hesitation, raises his. "The motion passes," Mayor Chen declares. "Now let's discuss the parade route and schedule." The rest of the meeting passes in a blur of logistics. I participate actively but don't push my advantage too far. By the end, some of the initial tension has dissipated, replaced by cautious acceptance of my involvement. As we're gathering our things to leave, Carl approaches me. "I feel like I should apologize," he says stiffly, "for the past rejections. We didn't know that you had resources," I supply, enjoying his discomfort. "Talent," he finishes, surprising me. "Those sketches are remarkable. If your float concepts were anything like that, well..." He trails off, looking genuinely regretful. For a brief moment, I consider telling him that yes, my concepts were exactly like that, and yes, he and his committee were blinded by small-town politics and an aversion to newcomers. But what would be the point? "Thank you," I say instead. "I'm looking forward to working with everyone on this year's parade." As I leave town hall, I feel lighter than I have in years. This isn't exactly the acceptance into the community I once craved, but it's something different and possibly better. It's respect. And I've earned it on my own terms. My phone buzzes with a text from Zoe. "How did it go? Do I need to post bail?" I laugh and type back, "No jail time necessary. Theme approved. Second chances." Poetic, right? She responds immediately, "Absolutely perfect. Drinks at my place to celebrate?" "On my way," I reply, getting into my car. As I drive through town, I notice details I've been too preoccupied to appreciate lately. The holiday decorations appearing in shop windows, the way the late afternoon sun gilds the old brick buildings downtown, the familiar faces of people going about their day. Maybe Maple Springs isn't so bad after all. Maybe, like me, it just needed a second chance. The next 3 months are a whirlwind of parade preparations. To everyone's surprise, including my own, I throw myself into the work with genuine enthusiasm. The committee meetings, initially tense, gradually become more collaborative as my ideas prove valuable and my funding removes the usual financial stressors. I rent a small storefront downtown to serve as parade headquarters, creating a space where community members can drop in to work on float elements, share ideas, or simply see how plans are progressing. It becomes a hub of activity, bringing together people who might never have interacted otherwise. In January, I host a town-wide design contest for the parade's logo. The winning design, created by a 16-year-old girl from the high school art program, becomes the official emblem, appearing on posters, t-shirts, and banners throughout town. By February, float applications are pouring in at record numbers. With the expanded budget I've provided, we can accommodate more participants than ever before. I ensure that the application process is streamlined and transparent, with clear criteria and feedback for all submissions. One evening, as I'm locking up the headquarters, Carl stops by. "We've never had this level of community engagement before," he admits. "Whatever else happens, you've already made this the most inclusive parade in Maple Springs history." "That was the goal," I say, pocketing the keys. "A parade should belong to everyone, not just a select few." He has the grace to look embarrassed. "Yes, well, lesson learned." He clears his throat. "The committee was wondering, hoping, really, that you might consider submitting a float design of your own this year." I can't help but laugh. "Are you sure? My track record isn't great." "Consider it a formal invitation," he says with a small smile. "It wouldn't be right for the sponsor not to participate." "I'll think about it, I promise." And I do think about it all the way home and long into the night. The irony isn't lost on me, being invited to submit a float by the very people who rejected me repeatedly. Part of me wants to decline out of principle. But another part, the part that's been enjoying this unexpected community connection, is already sketching concepts in my mind. The next morning, I call Zoe. "I need your help with something," I tell her. "How do you feel about building a parade float?" Her laughter fills the phone. "Vivian Mercer, you are full of surprises these days. Count me in." Spring arrives in Maple Springs with a burst of color and energy. The parade preparations shift into high gear as the June date approaches. My float, a collaboration with Zoe and several local artists I've befriended through the headquarters, takes shape in a rented warehouse space. We've designed it around the concept of a phoenix rising from ashes, with mechanisms that will transform the float from a scene of desolation to one of rebirth and growth as it moves along the parade route. It's technically ambitious, but with my newfound resources and our combined artistic skills, it's coming together beautifully. One Saturday afternoon, as we're working on the float's intricate paper feathers, Zoe nudges me. "Look who just walked in," she whispers. I glance up to see Ellen Peterson hovering uncertainly by the door, clutching a small paper bag. "I'll handle this," I say, wiping paint from my hands and walking over to her. "Ellen, hello. This is unexpected." She looks uncomfortable but determined. "I brought muffins," she says, holding out the bag. "From my garden's blueberries, frozen from last summer, but still good." I accept the bag, surprised by the gesture. "Thank you. Would you like to see what we're working on?" She hesitates, then nods. I lead her through the warehouse, showing her the float structure and explaining the transformation mechanism. She listens attentively, asking intelligent questions that reveal she knows more about float construction than I'd realized. "It's very ambitious," she says when the tour is complete. "But I can see it working. You have a good team." "We do," I agree. Would you like to join us? We could use someone with your experience." The offer surprises both of us. But over the past months, I've learned something important. Holding grudges takes too much energy. Energy better spent on creation. I'd like that," Ellen says after a moment. "If you're sure." "I'm sure. We're working on the feather assembly today. It's fiddly work, but I think you'd be good at it." And just like that, Ellen Peterson joins our float team. It's not an immediate transformation. There are awkward moments and old tensions that surface occasionally. But as the weeks pass, a tentative friendship forms, built on shared purpose and mutual respect. By the time June arrives, our Phoenix float is ready. It's a marvel of engineering and artistry, paper mache and fabric and mechanical elements, all working together to tell a story of destruction and rebirth. The base begins as a charred landscape of twisted metal and ash, but as it moves forward, hidden gears and pulleys gradually raise a magnificent phoenix from the wreckage, its wings extending wider and wider until they stretch nearly the entire width of the street, a riot of red and gold and orange that catches the sunlight like real flame. It's magnificent, Zoe declares during our final test run. Absolutely magnificent. Even Ellen, who's become an unexpected ally in this process, nods in agreement. It's the best float I've ever seen in the Maple Springs Parade, she admits, and I've seen all of them for the past 30 years. I feel a swell of pride that has nothing to do with vindication. This isn't about proving my worth to the committee anymore. It's about creating something beautiful that captures the spirit of rebirth that's taken hold in this town, in me. The day of the parade dawns clear and warm, perfect weather for an outdoor celebration. I wake early, too excited to sleep, and head downtown well before the 10 a.m. start time. The streets are already bustling with activity as float teams make final adjustments and vendors set up along the route. At parade headquarters, Mayor Chen is coordinating with the police chief about traffic barriers and safety measures. She looks less stressed than she has in months. "Vivian," she calls when she spots me. "Everything looks wonderful. The town hasn't had this much energy in years." "It's been a group effort," I say, and I mean it. Despite being the main sponsor, I've tried to share credit and decision-making as much as possible. It's made the process more rewarding for everyone. She hands me a small package. "This is for you, from the town council." Inside is a commemorative plaque that reads, "Presented to Vivian Mercer in appreciation for her generous support and creative vision for the Maple Springs Summer Parade 2023. Your contribution has revitalized a cherished tradition. I'm unexpectedly moved by the gesture. Thank you. This means a lot." "We meant every word," the mayor says. "Now, I believe you have a float to prepare. I hear it's quite something." I smile. "We hope so." As I head toward our warehouse staging area, I pass Carl Hoffman directing his Rotary Club team as they put finishing touches on their float. A tree whose barren branches gradually bloom as it moves, revealing messages of community renewal written by local school children. "Morning, Vivian," he calls. "Ready for the big reveal?" "As ready as we'll ever be," I reply. "Your float looks fantastic, Carl." "Inspired by your theme," he says with a nod of acknowledgement. "It's been instructive, working within your vision this year." It's as close to a full apology as I'm likely to get from Carl, and I accept it with a smile before continuing on my way. At our warehouse, my team is already assembled, running through the float's mechanism one last time. Zoe is directing 2 high school volunteers on how to operate the Phoenix's wing extension. "There you are!" she exclaims when she sees me. "We were starting to wonder if you'd overslept on the most important day of the year." "Not a chance," I laugh. "How's our baby doing?" "Purring like a kitten," she says, patting the float's undercarriage where the mechanical elements are hidden. "We're all set for the test run at 9:30. I move among the team members, checking details, offering encouragement, feeling a deep sense of belonging that I've never experienced before in Maple Springs. These people, some I've known for years, others I've only met through this project, have become something like family over the past months. At 9:30, we do our final test run. The Phoenix rises majestically from the ashes, right on cue, its wings spreading wide as small LED lights embedded in the feathers catch the morning sun. "Perfect," I declare, and everyone cheers. As we prepare to move the float to the parade's starting point, Ellen approaches me with a small velvet box. "The committee wanted you to have this," she says, handing it to me. Inside is a pin, the official Maple Springs Parade Committee pin that I've seen Ellen, Carl, and the others wear at every meeting. "We voted unanimously to make you a permanent member," Ellen explains, a hint of emotion in her normally composed voice. "Regardless of sponsorship in future years, we want you to remain part of the committee. Your perspective has been valuable." I'm speechless for a moment, remembering how desperately I once wanted to belong to this group, how painful each rejection had been. Now the invitation feels like the closing of a circle. "Thank you," I say, pinning it to my shirt. "I'd be honored." Ellen nods, seemingly relieved by my acceptance. "We should get moving. The parade waits for no one." not even its sponsor. From my position on our float, I have a perfect view of the parade as it winds through downtown Maple Springs. The streets are packed with spectators, more than I've ever seen at previous parades. Children sit on shoulders, older residents in folding chairs, everyone clutching the commemorative program designed by local artists. Our float is positioned near the end of the procession, the traditional spot of honor reserved for the most elaborate entry. As we wait for our turn to join the parade, I watch the other floats pass by. The Garden Society's display of plants native to the region, including information about how they're helping restore areas affected by the mill's environmental impact. The high school's float featuring students wearing costumes representing different careers, symbolizing the new possibilities for Maple Springs' workforce. The local animal shelter's creation showing animals finding new homes, complete with actual shelter pets who are available for adoption. Each float interprets the second chances theme in its own way, yet together they tell a cohesive story of a community reinventing itself. I feel a surge of pride seeing my concept brought to life so beautifully by so many different groups. Finally, it's our turn. The float before us, the library's book-themed creation, passes the starting point and the parade coordinator signals us forward. Ready? Zoe asks, positioned at the control panel hidden beneath decorative foliage. Ready, I confirm. Our float begins to move. At first, the spectators see only the scene of desolation, the charred landscape representing loss and endings. I hear murmurs of confusion, so different from the cheers that greeted earlier, more immediately cheerful floats. But as we progress along Main Street, the transformation begins. The Phoenix slowly rises, its mechanical wings beginning their gradual extension. Children point in excitement as they realize what's happening. The murmurs turn to gasps, then applause. By the time we reach the town square, the heart of the parade route, our Phoenix is in full glory, wings extended, head raised proudly, the LED lights creating the illusion of flickering flame. The crowd's reaction is everything we hoped for: thunderous applause, cheers, people standing for a better view. I catch glimpses of familiar faces in the crowd. The barista from my regular coffee shop. The postal worker who delivers to my house. Neighbors I've barely spoken to before. All of them smiling, pointing, appreciating what we've created. And in that moment, something shifts inside me. The revenge fantasy I'd briefly entertained when I first offered to sponsor the parade seems petty and small compared to what's actually happened. This isn't about showing up the committee or proving my worth. It's about being part of something larger than myself. A community finding its way forward after loss. As our float completes the route and returns to the staging area, I'm flooded with a sense of belonging more genuine than anything I'd sought before. Not belonging based on approval or acceptance, but belonging through contribution and connection. The judges announce the float competition winners an hour later in the town park where the parade festivities continue with food vendors, local bands, and community booths. Our Phoenix float wins the grand prize, a large trophy and a feature in the regional newspaper. When I step forward to accept the award, the applause is warm and genuine. I scan the crowd and spot Zoe giving me a thumbs up, Ellen nodding in approval, Carl actually smiling. Thank you, I say into the microphone. This award belongs to everyone who worked on the float, a true community effort, I pause, gathering my thoughts. When we chose Second Chances as this year's theme, I was thinking about how this town is reinventing itself after the mill closing. But I've realized it's also about the second chances we give each other. The opportunity to see people differently, to revise first impressions, to forgive past mistakes. I make eye contact with Ellen, then Carl. I moved to Maple Springs 3 years ago, looking for community. It took time, and honestly, some unexpected circumstances. But I've finally found it. Not because I was finally accepted, but because I found ways to contribute that made sense for me. I hold up the trophy. This belongs to all of us. Thank you for the second chance. The crowd erupts in applause again. As I step down from the podium, people approach to congratulate me, to ask questions about the float design, to thank me for sponsoring the parade. But the most meaningful moment comes when an elderly woman I've never met takes my hand in both of hers. I've lived in Maple Springs all my life, she tells me, her eyes bright with emotion. Seen this town through good times and bad. What you did this year, bringing people together like this when we needed it most. That's what community really means. You're one of us now, dear. Truly one of us. Later that evening, as the festivities wind down, Zoe and I sit on the steps of the gazebo in the town park, sharing a bottle of wine and watching the cleanup crews at work. So, she says, was it worth it? All the work, all the money? I consider the question. Financially speaking, definitely not. But in every other way. I gesture to the park around us where community members chat amiably as they take down decorations and pack up supplies. Absolutely worth it. And your revenge on the parade committee? She asks with a knowing smile. Did that work out as planned? I laugh. You know what? I completely forgot that was the original plan. Liar. Okay, maybe I didn't completely forget. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about that. I take a sip of wine. Turns out living well really is the best revenge. So philosophical, she teases. What's next for Maple Springs' premier philanthropist and parade extraordinaire? I lean back, looking up at the stars appearing in the twilight sky. I've been thinking about that. This town needs more than just a parade. The mill closing left a big hole in the local economy. Vivian, Zoe says warily, you can't single-handedly save the town. Not single-handedly, no. But I've had some conversations with a few former mill employees who have interesting ideas for small businesses. They just need startup capital and mentorship. I turn to face her. What do you think about a community investment fund? I provide the initial funding, but local business leaders help with mentoring and decision-making? Zoe studies me for a long moment. You're really staying, aren't you? Putting down roots here. I think I am, I admit. Is that crazy? Not crazy, just unexpected. 6 months ago, you were ready to leave and never look back. I shrug. 6 months ago, I was defining belonging by whether a small committee accepted my parade float. I've gained some perspective since then. And a few $1,000,000, Zoe adds with a laugh. That too, I acknowledge. But money alone wouldn't have changed how I felt about this place. It was getting involved, contributing something meaningful, building connections. That's what made the difference. We sit in comfortable silence for a while, watching as the park empties and the stars grow brighter overhead. You know, Zoe says eventually, your grandmother would be proud of you, using her money this way. I think of Eleanor, practical, no-nonsense Eleanor, who taught me the value of hard work and integrity. I think she would be. She always said money was just a tool. It's what you build with it that matters. And what are you building, Vivian Mercer? I smile, looking out over the town that has finally, unexpectedly become home. A life. A community. A place where second chances aren't just a parade theme. They're a way of life. Zoe raises her glass. I'll drink to that. We clink glasses as the last of the sunset fades from the sky, leaving Maple Springs bathed in the gentle light of early stars. A town transformed, not just by economic necessity or an elaborate parade, but by the simple, powerful act of people choosing to see each other anew. The new art center on Main Street buzzes with activity as I unlock the front doors for its grand opening. Sunlight streams through the renovated windows of what was once an abandoned department store, illuminating walls now covered with local artwork and classrooms equipped for everything from pottery to digital design. Nervous? Asks Meredith from the bookstore, who's volunteered to help with the opening day crowds. A little, I admit, straightening a painting by a local high school student. It's a big investment. The town needed this, she assures me. A place for creativity, for learning, for community. The Maple Springs Art and Innovation Center is my biggest project yet, funded primarily through my inheritance, but supplemented by grants and local donations. It houses art studios, classrooms, a small business incubator, and a coffee shop run by a former mill worker who always dreamed of being a barista. Within minutes of opening, people begin to arrive, families with children eager for the free art activities, seniors interested in the digital literacy classes, aspiring entrepreneurs curious about the business center resources. Mayor Chen arrives with a small delegation from the town council. This is exactly what we needed, Vivian, she says, gazing around at the transformed space. A place that honors our past while building our future. The mayor is right. We've incorporated elements of the town's industrial history into the design, with exposed brick walls and salvaged fixtures from the paper mill, creating a bridge between old and new Maple Springs. Ellen Peterson appears at my elbow, clipboard in hand. She's become the center's volunteer coordinator, bringing her organizational skills to yet another community project we've worked on together. The first ceramics class is overbooked, she informs me, and the business center already has a waiting list for mentorship sessions. Good problems to have, I reply. The grand opening unfolds beautifully, with hundreds of residents streaming through the doors throughout the day. I float between exhibits, classes, and information sessions, watching as people discover what the center has to offer. By late afternoon, I step outside for a breath of air and find Zoe waiting for me on the front steps. Hiding from your own success? She teases. Just taking a moment, I say, sitting beside her. It's a lot to take in. You've come a long way from fearing small-town rejection, she observes. I laugh. I guess I have. We look out at Main Street, which has undergone its own transformation over the past year. Several vacant storefronts now house new businesses, many supported by the community investment fund I established after last year's parade. The street has been beautified with planters and benches, and a new farmer's market occupies the town square every Saturday. Did you see Carl's announcement? Zoe asks. About this year's parade? I nod. Carl Hoffman, still chair of the parade committee, though now with a much more democratic approach, had revealed this year's theme at last week's town meeting, Rising Together. It's a good theme, I say. Appropriate. And inspired by your phoenix, I'm guessing, Zoe adds with a knowing smile. Before I can respond, we're interrupted by the arrival of a sleek black car that pulls up in front of the art center. The driver's door opens, and to my surprise, Amara Okafor emerges, looking exactly as polished and professional as she did the day we first met in Chicago. Amara, I exclaim, standing to greet her. What are you doing here? I couldn't miss the opening, she says, embracing me briefly. Not after all you've told me about this place in our calls. I introduce her to Zoe, and together we give her a tour of the center, pointing out the various spaces and programs. This is remarkable, Vivian, Amara says as we complete the circuit. When I told you about your inheritance, I never imagined you'd use it like this. Neither did I admit, but it felt right. Your grandmother would approve, she says. She was very specific in her will about wanting you to find purpose and connection. I think this qualifies. The mention of my grandmother brings a familiar pang of regret that we never reconciled before her death. But it's softened now by the knowledge that I'm honoring her legacy in a way that feels authentic to both of us. Will you stay for dinner? I ask Amara. A bunch of us are gathering at the new restaurant down the street after we close up here. I'd like that, she says. I want to hear more about this town that's inspired such devotion. As we head back inside to finish up the day's events, I catch a glimpse of my reflection in the glass doors. Standing tall, smiling, surrounded by people who have become friends and colleagues. A far cry from the woman who once wept on her porch steps over a rejected parade float application. The center is still bustling, filled with the voices of people exploring new possibilities. In the main gallery, a community mural project is underway, with residents of all ages adding their contributions to a large canvas depicting the town's past, present, and future. I pick up a brush and add my own small detail, a tiny phoenix, almost hidden in the corner of the sky, wings spread wide in flight. It's not about standing out anymore. It's about being part of something larger than myself. Something that, like the phoenix, continues to rise and transform, carrying all of us upward together. Coming to the planning meeting tomorrow? Carl asks as he passes by, parade committee pin gleaming on his shirt. Wouldn't miss it, I reply, and I mean it, every word.